The story opens with a boy, Miss Windsor, who is engrossed in a book in his room when soldiers arrive with an urgent message the king has summoned him. Without delay, he heads to the royal chamber only to be met with a shocking decree. The king announces his exile, accusing him of treason against the nation. Confused and shaken, he protests, insisting there must be a misunderstanding. However, his brother Alfred mocks him, dismissing his defense as meaningless. To provoke him further, he brings up his visit to Vitra, the guardian dragon, questioning whether he intends to bring ruin to the nation. Mice glares at him, realizing his brother is orchestrating his downfall. Another family member, Windsor, is also vying for the position of the next head of the household. As he pieces everything together, he is alarmed. He had hidden the dragon. Yet it now seems the truth has surfaced. Alfred questions whether he intends to control Vitra. The king then speaks, explaining that the kingdom's power comes from Vitra. He demands to know what he is plotting and what he intends to do with the dragon's strength. Struggling to understand the conspiracy against him, Mace listens as the king recounts an event from 4 years ago. A massive dragon appeared near the capital, subduing monsters and repelling an invading army. The people hailed it as their guardian deity. The king's son, furious, declares that he is unworthy of his status and asks for Alfred to be made the next head of the family. The king agrees, announcing that he is to be disinherited in his engagement to the second princess, Lucy, annulled. Instead, she will be betrothed to Alfred. Stunned and enraged, Mice warns that if he is exiled, Velatra will be furious and the kingdom will fall. Desperate, he reveals the truth. The Tatra is not a divine being but an artificial creature he created using alchemy. His claim is met with disbelief. Alfred scoffs and the king's son calls him a disgrace. The court erupts in outrage and knights seize him. He struggles, pleading for them to listen, but the king dismisses his words as foolishness. When he swears he speaks the truth, the king's son furiously silences him. Alfred suggests sending him to Biograd, a remote land covered in endless forests. The king's son supports the idea, reminding the king that Biograd's ruler recently died, leaving the region in a dire state. The king agrees, declaring it his destination. Soldiers drag him away as he shouts warnings about the kingdom's impending doom. Offered last, mocking him, while the king warns that further protests will result in execution. As the doors shut behind him, he is exiled. On his journey to Biograd, he is lost in thought, worried about how he will explain everything to his sister, Tiny. Suddenly, an ambush shatters his carriage. He is thrown to the ground as a group of armed men surrounds him, their headbands marked with the emblem of the Valor cult. They accuse him of being a bringer of plague, demanding he step forward. The mod chants for divine retribution. Mice tries to calm them, but they glare at him with contempt. When he admits to creating Velitra, one of them strikes his hand in fury. They declare his crime worthy of death. Just as they prepare to execute him, a massive shadow descends from the sky. The cultists freeze in awe as Valashur appears. Overcome with reverence, they fall to their knees, pleading for mercy. But Vitra's rage is undeniable. He opens his mouth and unleashes a stream of fire. The cultists, stunned, beg for an explanation. Velashur's voice booms through the air, warning them anyone who harms him will be sent to the underworld. The cultists tremble as their so-called god speaks. Mace watches in shock as Valak turns to him, asking if he is unharmed. The dragon's speech is human-like, and he wonders if this is a lingering effect of his alchemy. Suddenly, the dragon steps forward and embraces him. He tenses, sensing something unusual. Cautiously, he asks if she can return to his original form. Voucher nods. The form revered by the people is only a disguise. A transformation occurs, and before him stands his sister, Tiny. Stunned, he struggles to comprehend the revelation. She grins and asks for clothes. As he hands him over, he wonders if the mechanism could allow clothing to adjust automatically during transformations. She soon appears in an elegant outfit, twirling playfully. She then hands him a fragment of the infinite vault. He thanks her, then hesitantly asks if she spared the cultists. She assures him that she did not kill them. If she had, he could have been framed for murder. Instead, she used freezing magic to put them in a near-death state, ensuring they would eventually thaw. However, she acknowledges that some may still see her as their executioner. When he questions why Alfred would order the attack, she grows irritated. She scolds him for being oblivious. His engagement to Lucy was annulled, yet she still loves him. He, embarrassed, tries to dismiss the topic, but she bluntly states that Alfred's actions stem from jealousy. She then declares that the kingdom thrives only because of him. He, deep in thought, disagrees. He asks if she was protecting the kingdom as Dalitra with unexpected seriousness. She corrects him and says she was protecting him. Determined, she announces that she will accompany him to Biograd. He, taken aback, questions what will happen to the kingdom if she leaves. She smiles, dismissing his concerns. A kingdom without her brother means nothing to her. With conviction, she declares that from now on they will stay together. And with the guardian dragon gone, the kingdom's fall is inevitable. She, exhausted and frustrated, finally tells her brother that she is tired of pretending to be the guardian dragon and Yatra. She insists that they should leave the country together and head toward the distant untamed lands. He, after a brief pause, agrees. Without hesitation, she tells him to climb onto her back. He is confused. Suddenly, she transforms into her dragon form. She stands before him, explaining that she will carry him through the air. He, startled by the suggestion, firmly refuses. He explains that if she flies in dragon form, they will draw too much attention. As the kingdom's guardian dragon, her sudden disappearance would alarm the citizens. Realizing the risk, they consider alternative plans. After some thought, she suggests carrying Mai in her human form instead. He, baffled, questions her seriousness. She explains that if necessary, he should hold on to her tightly. However, noticing his reaction, she quickly proposes that they buy a horse instead. He contemplates the idea. Carrying him would slow her down and attract even more attention than flying. She then asks if they have enough money to buy a horse. Reassuringly, he reminds her that as the next heir of their family, he has sufficient funds. They soon arrive at the stable, where the owner asks if they are looking for a horse. They explain that they need a strong horse capable of traveling long distances without rest. The stable owner informs them that she has the perfect horse for them. Upon seeing it, the siblings are left speechless. She explains that unfortunately this is the only horse available. When the owner states the price of 40 gold coins, he is taken back. Before he can respond, she, outraged, exclaims that even here corruption is rampant and declares that this country is truly doomed. The stable owner, irritated, glares at them and asks him what the problem is. Before tensions escalate, he calmly apologizes and states that the horse will do. Without further discussion, he counts out 40 gold coins and hands them over. As they leave with the horse, she angrily questions his decision, complaining about the treatment they received. She finds it unacceptable that someone of their status was spoken to so rudely. He, unfazed, explains that if he had wanted, he could have burned the entire shop down, but he chose to let it go. She, taken aback by his response, falls silent. Examining the horse closely, she realizes that it is exhausted and may not be able to carry them to their destination. He gently strokes the horse's head and reassures it, acknowledging that their journey depends on it. He then asks if he would like to run freely one last time. Noticing the pain in the horse's eyes, he activates his unique ability. Placing his hand on the horse, he channels his power. And in an instant, the horse transforms into a magnificent unicorn. Its form evolves, its strength increases, and its rank rises to an extraordinary level. As the horse transforms into a magnificent unicorn, she is deeply impressed. He explains that he only intended to enhance it to an A-rank horse, but his abilities either result in a high-rank creature or complete failure. She, amazed by the unicorn's power, praises her brother. Satisfied with the outcome, he prepares to leave, urging her to mount so they can set off without delay. As they ride, the unicorn's incredible speed astounds them both. He notes that at this pace they will reach Biograd in no time. She holds on to her brother tightly and he remarks on how much she is leaning on him. Smirking, she admits she is doing it on purpose. However, he soon feels discomfort and tells her that her horn is pressing into his back. She adjusts slightly but remains close. As they pass through settlements, people stare at them in shock. He realizes they are attracting too much attention and notes that they need to learn to control the unicorn's speed. Approaching Biograd, she comments that their quick arrival is thanks to the unicorn, but he insists that it is because of her. He reminds her that all monsters in the Alphasia kingdom follow her command, meaning they won't be attacked. The thought of being welcomed by monsters surprises him, but she assures him that it is only natural. After all, he is the supreme and greatest being. Near the outskirts of Biograd, she warns him that from this point onward, hesitation is not an option. She explains that the monsters ahead are not under her control. He acknowledges this and stays alert. Suddenly they notice a massive rock blocking their path. He surveys the area, suspecting a nearby village. Sensing something unusual, she tells him the village is under attack. Examining the rock closely, he deduces that it seems to have strayed from its intended. However, something feels off and he urges her to investigate. Agreeing, she states firmly that whether intentional or not, someone has attacked her brother and she cannot let it go unanswered. With determination, they steer the unicorn toward the village where a massive cyclops awaits. As they enter the city, they spot several cyclops. One in particular catches their attention, seemingly attacking for amusement. Elsewhere, another battle unfolds, confirming their fear that multiple cyclops are present. Amidst the chaos, they see knights fighting desperately. Assessing the situation, they resolve to stop the invaders as long as the Biograd knights stand. Mice orders her to bring Levantine, and she swiftly retrieves the magical spear. Without hesitation, they launch an attack, obliterating a cyclops in a single strike. Shocked by how easily an A-rank monster falls, they struggle to believe it. She, impressed by her brother's strength, silently admires him. The knights approach, astonished by the sacred unicorn. Overwhelmed, they question the siblings' identity. Before an answer comes, two massive cyclops appear and surround them. The knights, caught off guard, brace for battle. She orders him to lower his head. As the cyclops attacks, she unleashes her full power, cleaving it in half. The onlookers are stunned by the display. Seizing the moment, she declares her brother the new ruler of Biograd. He steps forward hesitantly. The knights, confused by the siblings' composed demeanor, listen as he explains that they have come from the royal capital to defend the city. Before they can respond, violent coughing interrupts them. He, noticing their condition, asks if they are injured. Examining them closely, she recognizes the signs of the Black Death. He, shocked, remarks that the king never reported an outbreak here and warns them to stay back. The knights, distressed, urge him to keep his distance for his own safety. Before the discussion can continue, more cyclops appear and encircle them. Mice realizes that despite their failing health, the soldiers have fought relentlessly to protect the city. He refuses to let them perish and orders Tiny to undo her transformation. With unwavering determination, they prepare to defend the city. She reveals her true form, unleashing a powerful roar. The knights, already in awe, recoil in disbelief as they recognize her as Ritra, the guardian dragon of the kingdom. Their astonishment deepens when Virtue speaks, confirming their suspicions. Unable to comprehend how a dragon communicates in human tongue, they stand in shock. It attributes it to her brother's power, calling him the supreme and greatest one. The knights, Aruk, turn to him in reverence. He listens, embarrassed by their admiration. Before he can react, the Cyclops charge again, declaring their recklessness unforgivable. She states that such foolishness warrants 1,000 deaths. She breathes fire, reducing the monsters to ashes. Yet some attempt to flee, watching them. Her fury intensifies as she questions whether they truly believe they can escape. It stands in front of her brother, shielding him as she declares that this land belongs to him. She warns the Cyclops that attacking the city means making an enemy of him. Overwhelmed by her presence, the Cyclops tremble in fear, lower their weapons and beg for forgiveness. However, she remains unmoved. She coldly reminds them that since they have raised their weapons against her brother, the only fate awaiting them is death. Miss, shocked by her words, tries to reason with her, urging her to show mercy since the Cyclops have surrendered. She is momentarily taken aback, but refuses to yield, questioning his belief in sparing an enemy who has already raised the white flag. He firmly states that he dislikes unnecessary bloodshed and seeks coexistence for the sake of the citizens. Respecting his wishes, she relents and orders the Cyclops to be grateful for his generosity. As she returns to her true form, the Cyclops, terrified, bow before him, pledging loyalty and acknowledging him as their ruler. She then commands and to repair the destruction they cause and rebuild the barricades by the end of the day. The Cyclops, left with no choice, obey immediately. Mice reflects on his newly given title, Shadow Demon King, finding it unusual but recognizing its usefulness in controlling the creatures of this land. By reducing military spending, he could redirect resources elsewhere, leading to a more prosperous Biograd. A group of knights approaches Ed by his abilities. They acknowledge that the land, once on the brink of ruin, is now safe from monsters. However, they reveal that many among them suffer from a deadly illness and are simply awaiting death. They plead for him to protect this land. Surprised, he reassures them that no one will die under his watch and declares that he will cure them. His words shock the knights who doubt his claim, explaining that even the former rulers succumbed to the disease. They insist that once infected, there is no effective treatment. She intervenes, stating that they are fortunate to be here as her brother is the greatest alchemist in the country's history. She reminds them that even the earlier dragon transformation was possible due to his alchemy. He then asks about available potions in town, intending to create a healing elixir. Using Genesis alchemy and existence evolution, he successfully produces the Panacea elixir and urges the knights to drink it. As they consume it, their wounds heal instantly and their strength returns. Realizing that the available potions are insufficient, he instructs the knights to gather more from the town. They quickly comply, bringing back all they can find. Upon inspection, he determines that they are still not enough, but prioritizes the most severely injured. He acknowledges that some of his earlier attempts at creating potions have failed as the success rate was not 100%. But reassures everyone that he will continue his efforts. She examines the potions and suggests that a workshop will be necessary to improve the success rate. He agrees, realizing they need proper equipment, starting with an alchemy cauldron. However, she reminds him that he had previously succeeded without one. He admits that while he was relieved when his past experiments worked, he was also deeply concerned about potential failure. His words leave her and the unicorn momentarily silent, unsettled by the thought. A knight steps forward, still in disbelief, and reveals that they had believed the royal capital had abandoned them. He acknowledges his abilities as godlike and states that it is only natural for him to be their king. Ms. however, clarifies that he was unaware of the plague spreading through Baghrad. The knight is stunned and asks why he was sent here in the first place. He recalls how his brother Alfred exiled him to the frontier and begins to suspect that he already knew about the disease. He even wonders if the king was only informed that the previous lord had passed away. Hearing this, she expresses her anger, declaring that if this is true, she would crush Alfred. She asserts that the king committed a grave crime the moment he exiled him. He taken aback by her words, remains cautious, realizing that if not handled carefully, this could be seen as treason. He decides to manage the situation carefully. As Cyclops approaches, addressing him as king, and tearfully requests an elixir to save a dying comrade. Without hesitation he agrees. Before he proceeds, she questions him once more, asking if he is certain about this. He affirms that the Cyclops are now allies, and if there is a chance to save them, he will take it. He administers the elixir and the dying Cyclops is instantly healed. The Knights of Biograd, witnessing the miracle, swear absolute loyalty to him. The people moved by his power and compassion proclaim him their ruler and pledge unwavering allegiance. At the mansion they discusses the urgent need for medicine. He, serious and focused, points out that the town's supply is insufficient. When he inquires about trade with merchants or nearby towns, the knight informs him that all trade has ceased. Fear of the plague has driven people away and merchants refuse to come near. This revelation shocks him. If potions stop arriving, he will be unable to produce the elixir. The knight, however, does not see the problem, believing that if he can create an elixir, making potions should be easier. Mice clarify that his Genesis alchemy only allows him to transmute the highest grade materials. Anything of lower quality fails. While he can make the elixir, he cannot produce the potions needed as ingredients. Understanding the issue, the knight suggests searching the mansion as the previous lord and alchemist likely left behind a stockpile. Surprised, he agrees and they set off to investigate. Upon arrival, the knight calls for the gates to be opened, announcing the new lord's presence. When no one responds, she grows irritated at the lack of respect toward her brother. The knight apologizes and explains that after the previous lord's passing, a young maid named Ares was left in charge of the mansion. Mice finds it difficult to believe that one person could manage such a vast estate alone. A troubling thought crosses his mind as she has contracted the plague. She may have collapsed inside. Without hesitation, he orders Tiny to open the gate. Following his command, she effortlessly breaks the door. The knight, witnessing her strength, finally accepts that she is in fact Lord Vertra. She remarks that her strength is significantly reduced compared to her original form, but tasks like breaking a gate remain easy. Mace, meanwhile, had assumed she would fly over and unlock it from the inside. The gate now broken, she suggests having a Cyclops repair it. The knight, impressed by her reliability, smiles. Despite the noise, the mansion remains eerily silent. Growing suspicious, decide they must search for her immediately. He instructs the knight to check the second floor while she searches the first. As they comb through the mansion calling her name, he activates Farsight to scan for life signs. Aside from the three of them, no one else is present. Yet, the estate remains meticulously clean, suggesting someone had been here until recently. After a while they returned, confirming that they found nothing, not even on the second floor. She, apologetic, states that she was also unable to detect anyone. He, deep in thought, considers the situation. At that moment, she informs him of another life sign of a cat they assume is a pet left behind in the mansion. The cat suddenly begins communicating with her in its own language. After a brief exchange, she informs him that the cat wishes to accompany them. The knight is astonished by her ability to understand it. Mice explains that as a side effect of her transformation into a dragon, she can communicate with creatures that do not speak their language. Without warning, the cat dashes ahead, leading them to a specific location. Following it, they discover Ares collapsed on the ground. Rushing to her side, they immediately check her condition and recognize the symptoms of the Black Death. Wasting no time, he administers his prepared medicine. As soon as she drinks it, she recovers almost instantly. Sitting up, she is stunned by the sudden restoration of her health. Relieved, he feels reassured that they arrived just in time. She, still in shock, asks if he is a doctor. Before he can respond, Kenny informs her that he is the new Lord of Baghrad. He introduces himself formally, expressing his pleasure at meeting her. She, taken aback, struggles to believe it. Realizing her earlier behavior, she quickly apologizes and introduces herself as the mansion's maid, having served the lords of this land for generations. She sincerely thanks them for saving her. He, smiling, tells her that if she wishes to express gratitude, she should thank the cat, as it was the one that led them to her. She, surprised, picks up the cat and embraces it, thanking it for bringing help. Turning serious, he suddenly asks if she can guide them to the alchemy workshop. She, still recovering, assumes he must be exhausted and offers to prepare a room, suggesting they rest for the night. However, he remains firm. There is no time to rest. They must begin mass-producing elixirs immediately. She listens as the knight explains that the medicine he gave her was an elixir. She struggles to believe it, unaware that she had consumed such a powerful remedy. Meanwhile, Tenny reminds him that he must be exhausted after using alchemy in town earlier. He, however, remains resolute. Looking at the dire state of Baghrad, he declares that the town is on the brink of collapse. There is no time to delay. With unwavering determination, he vows to save Baghrad using his alchemy. He recounts the events that led to his exile, explaining how his sister once served as the guardian dragon Vitra, protecting the kingdom. However, when he attempted to cure an illness through alchemy, an unexpected side effect transformed her into a dragon. When he informed the king, his claims were dismissed, and he was exiled to the cold lands of Baghrad. Upon arrival, he discovered the city overwhelmed with plague-stricken people. Determined to save them, he reveals his plan to use alchemy to restore Baghrad. Ares, understanding the gravity of the situation, agrees to help and leads him to the alchemist's hidden chamber within the mansion, surprising him with its existence. As they proceed, a knight informs her of his return to security duties, entrusting her with the situation. She acknowledges his departure before continuing with them. Upon entering the mansion, Mas is astonished by the underground passage concealed beneath it. As they descend, they reach a long-abandoned chamber and, upon entry, both he and his sister start coughing due to the thick layer of dust. Ares apologizes, explaining that under the previous lord's orders, no one was allowed inside without permission, so it was never cleaned. He dismisses her concern, noting the presence of potentially hazardous substances left unchecked due to the former lord's absence. He insists on inspecting the stored potions, but acknowledges the need to clean the area first. Unexpectedly, she begins removing her clothes, trembling in fear, assuming that he intends to punish her. Both of them are shocked. Seeing her distress, he, deeply unsettled, reassures her that he would never harm her. She hesitantly reveals that the previous lord treated her and the other servants cruelly, leading her to believe that such treatment was customary. He firmly assures her that such abuse is unacceptable and should never be tolerated. She, stunned by his response, expresses immense gratitude. Meanwhile, Tiny, in a light-hearted manner, reminds her that despite his greatness, he would never mistreat anyone. Eris, feeling reassured, acknowledges the sentiment, considering it an honor to serve. He entrusts Tiny with cleaning and she happily agrees. Ares insists on handling it herself, but she dismisses her concerns. Activating her infinite warehouse ability, she effortlessly uses wind magic to cleanse the entire chamber, making it spotless in an instant. Ares watches in amazement, unable to comprehend how everything vanished so suddenly. When Tenny restores the stored items, Ares is further bewildered, realizing it is unlike any magic she has encountered before. Tenny explains that while she used magic to absorb the dust, the ability to store and restore objects comes from a magical tool created by him. Eris, still in awe, admits she has never heard of such an extraordinary invention. Tenny proudly adds that it is the only one of its kind, mentioning that he has created numerous magical artifacts, including spears, swords, and elixirs. She excitedly shares that even the sacred beast outside the unicorn is one of his creations. Ares is left speechless, recalling the legend of the Windsor ducal family, believed to be descendants of the renowned alchemist Pericillus. However, she wonders if his abilities surpass even that of the great alchemist. He, however, humbly refuts the notion, acknowledging that he is still inexperienced. After searching for a suitable place to begin their work, Tenny discovers an alchemy pot and brings it to him. Upon closer inspection, he recognizes it as their father's alchemy pot. She reveals that she had retrieved it before their journey, recounting how she approached the king, who was shocked to see a dragon before him, and how he willingly gave it to her as a father fulfilling his daughter's request. He acknowledges her efforts, while the maid, hearing about the dragon, is left astonished. She then reveals that she herself is the guardian dragon, but understands if they do not believe her since she cannot transform in this place. Meanwhile, he inspects the materials available: a demon beast's horn, a flame crystal, a sea beast's claw, and an alchemical solution, only to realize they are of no use, leaving him concerned about their limited potion stock. Before he can find a solution, Eris' cat, Mina, arrives, prompting her to scold her for coming to such a place. She then remarks that the kitten seems quite attached to her. Observing this, his mind begins racing as he asks her if she knows the cause of the Black Death spreading across various regions. Nervously shares a theory that a bird is responsible, but he corrects her, explaining that the true cause is a rat. She is shocked, and he further notes kitten intelligence, recalling how she had guided them to help her before. After deep thought, he presents a difficult proposal. Through alchemy, he can evolve the kitten into a sacred beast. She agrees, trusting in him, but insists that kitten consent is necessary. Turning to the cat, he seriously explains the risks, admitting that if the process fails, she could turn into a monster. However, he promises that if that happens, he will find a way to bring her back. Acknowledging his own concern, he reassures Eris that he genuinely cares for Mina. She, moved by his resolve, expresses her trust in him. He then asks Tiny to communicate with the kitten, as she can understand the language of creatures. Eris is surprised by this ability, while Tiny gently lifts her and speaks to her. Mina eagerly expresses her willingness to do anything to help her, referring to her as her mother. Eris is stunned by this realization. After some exchange, Tiny relays her gratitude for being taken in 3 years ago. He takes in the situation, realizing the weight of his responsibility. Unlike when he created the legendary unicorn, this time he is about to craft a unique existence not found in any legend. Doubt lingers in his mind, but before it takes hold, Tiny reassures him, expressing unwavering belief in his abilities. Encouraged by her support, he finally resolves himself and carefully prepares to transform her into a sacred beast through alchemy. He begins his work with focus and determination, instructing Tiny to pour the alchemical solution into the pot. She follows his guidance, and together they carefully prepare the mixture. Harris watches with growing concern for her cat, but he, relying on his expertise, proceeds with confidence to evolve kitten existence. Once the solution is ready, Tiny carries her over and drops her into the heated mixture. Ares watches anxiously as the cat emerges, covered in a sticky substance.